Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Hopefully everybody's looking forward to their team's high school football game tonight. I know the team that I cover for the local radio station here is on a bye week this week, so I'm actually going to go referee tonight. And I got lucky because they're on a bye week this week, so I am actually off from doing that. And former WWE wrestler Heath Slater is going to be at the Royston Dome tonight to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of SCA, which is on Cherry Street in Royston. So it just so happens the week that the local high school team has a bye week, Heath Slater is coming to the Royston Dome, and I have not been in a wrestling ring in 1 month, so it's going to feel good to be back in the ring tonight. So that's where I will be. But if you go to a high school game, please feel free down below in the comment section to let me know what the score was when the game is over with and what game it was, and let me know, is that your high school team because you went to school there? Is it your high school team because you live there now and you have kids that either went there or go there? Or are they your high school team just because you moved there now and, they're the local team? But today I want to talk some college football. There was no big-time game last night because of the NFL season starting last night. Now, starting next week, the NFL Thursday night game will be on Amazon, so unless you pay extra, you will not be able to see it. But tonight, on ESPN 2 at 7 o'clock, we have BYU and SMU. Now, I said before the season started that I have a feeling SMU is going to be pretty good. They're not going to win the ACC by any stretch of the imagination, but I think people see SMU and think, boy, they suck. But I really think they have a chance to win 7 or 8 games this year. 9 o'clock on FS1, we have Duke and Northwestern. And before I talk about all the games coming up tomorrow starting at noon, let me say that yesterday I was talking to a co-worker, and they were talking about Georgia and how he feels like Georgia, has a lot to work on. I said, well, Georgia will be fine. They're not the best team in the country. The best team in the country by far, talent-wise, is Ohio State. But being the best team talent-wise doesn't always mean you're going to win the national championship. Now, if Ohio State doesn't win it, they have no more excuses because they're never going to have the talent they have this year. I mean, they always have great talent, but it's never going to be as good and as deep as it is this year. But he was talking about, Georgia's game coming up tomorrow playing a middle school team. He said, man, I hate it because I love football, but it seems like you get so excited for it, and then when it gets here, half of your games are against nobodies. And I said, well, they are, and that's why I always get mad when Georgia fans, back in the days when they couldn't win diddly squat, their fallback was always, man, our schedule's tough. We play in a tough conference. I said, first of all, you don't say that unless you suck. A team that wins never complains about their schedule, only teams that suck. And second of all, there's been no team in the history of mankind that's played 12 tough games. Every team has 3 or 4 pancakes on their schedule. Every team, every conference, every year, you have 3 or 4 pancakes on your schedule. There ain't no team ever had 12 tough games. It's never happened. It's never going to happen. But I told him that team Georgia plays tomorrow is so bad they couldn't beat most middle school teams. They're not even a competitive FCS team. It's not like they're playing, Montana State or Montana or North Dakota State. They're playing a terrible FCS team. So this game should be over 5 minutes into the game. But starting tomorrow at noon, we have Texas and Michigan on Fox. Bowling Green, or as some people call them, Bowling Green State, and Penn State on the Big Ten Network. And then we have Arkansas and Oklahoma State on ABC. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but back in the day, when I say back in the day, I'm going way back. I'm not going back 10 years. I'm going back in the day before you had all these big-time conferences. There used to be some smaller conferences, and Arkansas and Oklahoma State were big-time rivals back then. And those two schools are actually not very far from each other. I have been to Oklahoma back when I was 10 years old, and we drove right through Arkansas. And it wasn't much longer after Arkansas, we were in Oklahoma City, which is not where Oklahoma State plays at, but it's the state of Oklahoma. Also at noon, we have Kansas State and Tulane on ESPN, Georgia Tech and Syracuse on the ACC network. I think a lot of people got excited thinking Georgia Tech was going to be really good when they beat Florida State, and then this past Monday when Florida State lost to Boston College, I think everyone was like, wait a minute, hold your horses. We're not sure Georgia Tech is as good as we thought they were. I think we realized Florida State is terrible, and they are. And I saw something yesterday that I honestly had not even thought about, and it was talking about, DJU, of course, he's taking all the slack, and he hasn't played good, don't get me wrong, but if DJ would have played back in the days when defense actually was a thing in football, and he would have played back in the 90s, he would have been called a game manager. That's what he is. He just doesn't have the heart, the passion, and the drive to go out there and put his body on the line. He's just not going to do it. He's not going to win you any games, but he's not going to lose you any games. If you go out there and you can move the ball and run the ball and play good defense, he'll get you a 17-14 win. But if you struggle running the ball and it's all on him, you can forget it. If your defense struggles and you've got to score 30 points to win, you can forget it. And Florida State's defense right now is hideous, and their offensive line right now is hideous, so they can't run. I think they had 20 rushing yards against Boston College. That's awful. When you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run, I don't care who your quarterback is, you're not going to win consistently. All the other team's got to do is get the ball and just run it down your throat and keep the ball for 8, 9, 10 minutes, and you ain't got a chance. But it said that in DJ's 2 years at Clemson, I believe their record was either 21-6 or 22-6. And it said now we should see how good of an actual coach Dabo Swinney is. He had DJ for 2 years and won a multiple-digit games both years, and now at Oregon State last year, and so far this year, the former Oregon State coach, and now Florida State coach, are, I believe, 8-6 with DJ at quarterback. So for Dabo to win double-digit games back-to-back years, I think it was 22 in 2 years with DJ, that's pretty good. Rhode Island and Minnesota on Peacock, Akron and Rutgers on the Big Ten Network, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati on ESPN 2, Troy and Memphis on ESPN U, and might want to pay attention in that game because Memphis plays Florida State next week, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Memphis beats Florida State. If they do beat Florida State's season is virtually over with. Army and Florida Atlantic on the CBS Sports Network, and that is the noon games. 3:30 on NBC, we have Northern Illinois and Notre Dame, Baylor and Utah on Fox. Two arch rivals that always play in week number 2, Iowa State and Iowa. That game is on CBS. It still sounds funny saying that the 3:30 CBS game is going to be the Big Ten, We'll have to see if Iowa can translate last week's offense to this week's offense, because if so, they'll beat Iowa State pretty easily. California and Auburn on ESPN2. And then the ABC SEC game is South Carolina and Kentucky. First of all, it sounds funny saying that the SEC game of the week is going to be on ABC, but also what most folks probably haven't thought about is this is the first SEC game since the conference expanded in the off season. So the winner of South Carolina and Kentucky will be in first place by themselves in the brand new expanded SEC, because it is the first conference game of the year. So the winner of South Carolina and Kentucky will be leading the SEC, and I think personally that the Gamecocks will win the game. I know they didn't look very good last week, but they seem to always play good against Kentucky. Plus, Kentucky really only played about a half because their game got called, I think, 3 minutes into quarter number 3. So it might be ugly, but I think South Carolina will win that game. Michigan State and Maryland on the Big Ten Network. South Dakota and Wisconsin on Fox Sports 1. Charlotte and North Carolina. No, not Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte and North Carolina on the ACC Network. Idaho and Wyoming. And talking about sounding funny, Idaho and Wyoming is going to be on True TV. So True TV carries college basketball come tournament time, and now they're going to be carrying college football. Idaho and Wyoming tomorrow. Then we have Temple and Navy on the CBS Sports Network. That is the 3:30 games. 4 o'clock, we have UTSA against Texas State on ESPN. 4:15, we have Middle Tennessee State against Ole Miss on the SEC Network. And Middle Tennessee State, if you did not know, is now coached by former Vanderbilt head coach Derek Mason. 4:30 on the CW is two teams that are within walking distance of each other, and if they played in the same conference or anywhere close to the same conference, they probably play every single year. That's Marshall and Virginia Tech. And then at 7 o'clock, we have South Florida and Alabama on ESPN. Kansas and Illinois on Fox Sports 1. Virginia and Wake Forest on ESPN 2. San Jose State and Air Force on the CBS Sports Network. Another game on True TV, Georgia Southern and Nevada. And then we have Western Michigan and Ohio State on the Big Ten Network at 7:30. Tennessee and NC State on ABC. That is a neutral site game. And before the season started, everybody was looking forward to that game, thinking it was going to be a really good game. And then NC State struggled with Western Carolina. And I think now everybody's pretty confident Tennessee's going to win the game, because Tennessee's defensive line is really good, and NC State's offensive line looked hideous. So unless they've made some major improvements in 1 week, they're going to struggle blocking Tennessee. Alcorn State and Vanderbilt on ESPN-U. Now, Vanderbilt brought in a quarterback named Diego Pavia. He's a transfer, and he's really good, but it looked like on paper they had no running game and no receivers to throw the ball to. But in week number 1, Vanderbilt's offense looked pretty dang good. Colorado and Nebraska on NBC. Go Cornhuskers. I'm not a Husker fan, but this whole Deion thing is driving me up the wall. I ain't never seen a man who's accomplished nothing coaching and all of a sudden walk around and think his crap don't stink. So I'm pulling for Nebraska. In that game, I want Colorado to go in the tank and go in the tank fast. 7:45, Houston and Oklahoma. That game shouldn't be close. Houston lost last week to a nobody team. Oklahoma should beat them by 500. 8 o'clock on the ACC network. Appalachian State at Clemson. 10 o'clock on Peacock. Boise State and Oregon. 10 o'clock on Fox. Texas Tech and Washington State. 10:15 on ESPN2. Liberty and New Mexico State. 10:30 on ESPN is Mississippi State and Arizona State. 10:30 on the CBS Sports Network, Oregon State and San Diego State. And 11 o'clock on the Big Ten Network is Utah State and USC. Of course, that's all the televised games that are on regular networks, not the Fox Sports 2s, not the ESPN Plus, not the SEC Plus, not the ACC Plus, because not many people have those channels, but just about everybody has every single channel I mentioned, except maybe Peacock, because you do have to pay extra for that. But I think that's one streaming service that just about everybody has, because Peacock not only carries college football, but they carry NASCAR, they carry IndyCar racing, they carry wrestling, they carry basketball. So Peacock has a little bit of everything on their network. I think about everybody has Peacock. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Looking forward to another great weekend of college football action. I like how they try to spread it out and not try to put all the big time games at one time. So that way, if you ain't got one of those split screens where you can watch 4 games at one time, you ain't got to worry about it. Watch one big game at noon, watch one big game at 3:30, and of course at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. If you're not watching App State at Clemson, you're watching the wrong game. But of course you can record any other game that you would like to record. But it's going to be a great weekend of college football action. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I ate natural foods until I found out that most people die from natural causes. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.